Mr. President, how many staff are sick? How many of your staff are sick?
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Do you think you might be a super spreader, Mr. President?
There's an old saying that denying the truth does not change the facts. Perhaps Republican Party leaders have not heard it. Today, a still infected President Trump again compared the virus to the flu and said we are learning to live with it, despite his own doctor saying he is still not out of the woods. And even though he seemed short of breath last night when he arrived back at the White House. Do not forget former governor and Trump debate advisor Chris Christie is still in the hospital after contracting the virus. And 3 Republican senators are now infected. Yet one of them, Senator Ron Johnson, suggested in a radio interview that we should have followed the Sweden model, meaning no lockdowns, meaning it is likely a lot more people would have gotten sick and died. And remember, COVID-19 is taking one of the party's former presidential candidates. Early Trump supporter Herman Cain died just weeks after he attended the president's rally in Oklahoma, not wearing a mask, not socially distant. Still, here was Senator John Kennedy's take on the virus yesterday in an interview on Fox News.
It shows what we've learned about this virus. We've learned 2 things, among others, but 2 things stand out in my mind. Number 1, it's very contagious. And number 2, it's not nearly as lethal as the experts told us it was going to be.
Joining me now, former RNC chairman and senior advisor to the Lincoln Project, Michael Steele, and back with me, former aide to the vice president on the coronavirus task force, Olivia Troy. Let's inject this conversation with a little bit of science and a little bit of expertise by playing a conversation, a snippet of it that my colleague Kate Snow had with Dr. Anthony Fauci a little bit earlier today. Let's play it.
COVID-19 is a serious situation. It is a viral disease that has a broad range of manifestations with the potential to make people very ill and kill them. The numbers speak for themselves. We have 210,000 deaths and over 7 million infections in the United States and over 1 million deaths globally. So this is not a trivial disease. People in the United States should realize that it is not a trivial disease. The potential for what COVID can do, what SARS coronavirus 2 can do, is very, very much different from influenza. You don't get a pandemic that kills 1 million people, and it isn't even over yet with influenza.
They keep talking about yearly numbers, some of the Republicans saying, oh, it's just the flu, the president does as well. Remember, this pandemic has been infecting us for, between February, March, and now that's a lot less than a year. And it's already killed more than 210,000 and millions have been infected. Michael, when you hear Republicans talk about this, is it because they don't understand the science, like don't get it, don't want to get it, or is it cold, hard politics?
It's cold, hard politics. It's not wanting to be on the wrong side of Donald Trump. Some of it is their own conclusions that they have formed that's ill-informed. And so there's this combination of forces that has just dumbed down the conversation on my side of the aisle to the point where there's no credibility at all. Anytime a Republican opens their mouth to talk about coronavirus, you can see that and hear the collective eye roll of millions of Americans who are sitting here watching family members get sick. We watched the president of the United States stand on a balcony, barely able to breathe. Yeah, he was sucking it up, but that brother was trying to find a breath, okay? And he shouldn't have been there. He takes his mask off in contravention of everything we know. He is the super spreader. He is the problem in the White House. And everyone wants to tiptoe around it. People are getting sick. We don't know how and to what degree they will be sick over the next few weeks. And yet he's standing there thumbs up like, I got a cold and I've got the sniffles. No one's listening to Dr. Fauci. It's an embarrassment to the country that this is how our leaders, both in the Senate and in the White House, take this virus. And so the only advice I can have for your health is stop listening to them. Talk to your doctors, talk to the health professionals, go to reputable sites, get the information you need, yes, to still arm yourself 8 months into this thing with correct information so you don't wind up sick or, God forbid, dead. Take the politics out of this, folks. This is not about politics. I don't know what Republicans are so afraid of, but just saying wear a mask. You could get sick. You could hurt or kill a family member by being reckless and self-interested.
Olivia, as somebody who worked on the task force, when you saw the president yesterday take off his mask on top of the balcony, surround himself with people to tape a video, and then walk into the residence where people are inside, they're wearing masks. He is not wearing masks. He's the contagious one. When you think about your time on the task force and the messaging you were trying to get out, what was your reaction?
I thought, here we go again. He has the world stage. He's sitting on the balcony. And once again, he's undermining everything that people like experts like Dr. Fauci and other doctors on the task force have told him. And I also thought, you know, this is more dangerous than what we saw before, because now he is using himself as an example of telling people, you know, don't let COVID disrupt your life. You know, you're going to be just fine. The truth is that's not correct. I mean, people are going to go out there, they're going to disregard, they're going to continue to follow his guidance, but they don't have the same access to medical and therapeutics that he has.
Yeah.
And also, we just don't know. It's a very personal thing on how a person's body is going to react. And so I just thought, I found it completely despicable that once again, he could have changed the narrative. He had an opportunity to press a reset button, and instead he doubled down on what he has been doing for the past few months since this pandemic started. And I find it completely dangerous and unacceptable.
Michael, my colleague Peter Alexander is reporting that Trump aides say that if he's going to show up to this next debate as a survivor, an invincible hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's if he can catch a breath through the debate. I mean, yeah, he's not an invincible hero. He's not a hero at all. It is a pathetic excuse in leadership when you subject the country to this kind of mindless self-aggrandizement. I'm sorry. You do what you're supposed to do. You've got reputable scientists and doctors who are telling you how to behave. The example that you can set, to Olivia's point. She served on the commission looking at this thing. He came in and completely bogarted his way onto it and completely turned upside down the messaging and the narrative. So you're going to go into this debate next week with Joe Biden. If I was Joe Biden, I'd just do it inside of a plexiglass wall because who knows what this guy is going to be doing and how this is going to play out with other audience members. So there's a lot to be considered with Donald Trump showing up at this town hall debate next week, carrying the contagion with him. And so I just don't know what's to be gained by that at this point.
It is just exhausting having this conversation over and over again. We've been having it now for 7, 8, 9 months. Take it seriously.
You're
it is deadly.
me.
Wear a mask. Yeah, I mean, it's head spinning. Just take it seriously. It's killing people. Olivia Troy, thanks so much for sticking around. Michael Steele, thank you as always. I assume we'll have this conversation again soon.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.